Senator Searpoy,
Here.
Henderson,
Here.
Bernsketter, Carter, Fitzwater, Gregory, May, McCreary, Mosley.
So we got a quorum. Okay, we have a quorum. Since we have a quorum, before we hear Senate Bill 489, I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? We have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We are in executive session. I now move that we bring Senate Bill 239 up for a due pass motion or before the committee. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opponents say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Senate Bill 239 is before the committee. I now move that we vote due pass Senate Bill 239. Do I have a second? Second. The discussion on this 239 is a bill we heard last week about recycling paint, having a small fee for paint recycling, a volunteer system that I believe Senator Berger presented last week. Any discussion on that bill? Seeing none, I move that we do. I've already made the motion and a second, so I guess, Michelle, will you call the vote?
Senator Searpoy.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Bernsketter. Carter. Fitzwater. Gregory. May. McCreary. Mosley.
By your vote of 9-0, we have voted due pass for Senate Bill 239. I now move that we leave executive session. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are out of executive session. Now, back to the committee meeting. We're now here, the opening or the hearing on Senate Bill 489. Senator Brown, if you'd like to come forward. Before we start, how many people want to testify in favor of that bill? How many in opposition? Okay, thanks. Make sure that you're going to testify. Make sure you've got a witness form and you fill that out. Senator Brown, go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning. For the record, I am Senator Ben Brown of the 26th District, and I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 489, a bill that would aid in bringing high-speed internet to more Missourians. Internet access is essential for our kids' education, our small businesses, and our rural families. We're closing the digital divide, but it's costly to bring broadband networks, especially in rural Missouri where they stretch along countless road miles. The problem? When MoDOT or local governments start road projects, providers must relocate their facilities at their own expense. This is wrong. It's an unfunded mandate that slows rural broadband growth. Money spent moving internet lines should connect unserved communities, not pave roads. MoDOT and municipalities plan these projects and budget for materials. Relocation costs should be their responsibility, not a burden on providers working to keep Missouri online. SB489 fixes this. It requires MoDOT and municipalities, the ones benefiting from these projects, to reimburse internet telecommunications and video providers for forced relocations that are required as a result of these projects. Other utilities, such as investor-owned electric, gas, water, and sewer utilities, already have a decades-old compensation mechanism in order to recover these costs. Broadband providers deserve the same fairness. A yes vote on Senate Bill 49 means more internet for Missouri. It ends this unfair burden, frees up capital for connectivity, and keeps markets fair. The cost of road budgets, just 1% to 2%, a small investment for a big return. This isn't about politics. It's about rural students having access to educational opportunities, farmers being able to expand their business through online sales, and rural families having access to health care. Please support Senate Bill 49 for rural families and ensure access to broadband and the benefits that come with it are available to all Missourians. I'll also add that the same bill has already been voted out of the House Transportation Committee with a vote of 15-1. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Any questions for Senator Brown? Yep. Senator Mosley.
Can you restate what you said about the cost being reimbursed responsibility?
So as it stands now, so for investor-owned utilities, there's a reimbursement mechanism. So if they want to move a road or expand a road and those lines need to be moved, that they get reimbursement for that. But for telecommunication companies, they don't. Like the municipality could come in and say, we're widening this road. You already invested in the community by putting in these lines. Now we're forcing you to move it 8 feet over, and you're going to have to take the burden of that expense all on your own, even though the municipalities are the ones benefiting. And they're also benefiting from the broadband services that are being provided, because an area that has access to broadband, obviously that's going to attract more people to that area.
Okay. So where are the county people supposed to recoup their money?
I'm sorry, who?
Where would the county and municipalities recoup their money? How would they
Recoup their money
recoup
for the
their
road
money?
projects?
Yeah.
Well,
If
it's,
they're taking responsibility for the utility companies.
so they don't need to recoup their money because they have the option of whether to proceed with these projects in the first place. So, they weigh a number of factors in making that decision. Is widening a road going to allow more traffic? Is that going to allow expansion of business in that area, which brings more tax revenue? Is that going to bring more population, which brings more tax revenue? So they're already benefiting, and they get to weigh the return on investment when planning these projects. As opposed to that, the utility companies, they don't get any kind of return on investment. The city makes a decision to do this project, they reap the benefits, and the utility company, not the utility companies, but the telecommunication companies are simply having to eat that cost, even though they're the ones that aren't benefiting from it.
So you don't think that constituents benefit from widening of roads? Because
No,
I know I've had
I
constituents come to me and ask for widening the roads to be done
No, I think
in
they
the
do.
area, and
I agree.
sign off on it, and okay.
No, I agree. I think that the people in that area do benefit from those projects.
Okay.
I think they
So,
benefit from
again,
that, and
where
they
are the-
benefit
where
from.
where are the county people getting their? How they're going to get reimbursed?
How are the
for
county
paying
people
for,
getting?
for paying for utility companies to move theirs?
Well,
stuff
that would
where
be
they're
part of the cost of the project when they assess that. So it wouldn't be about reimbursement for the county, but it would be. I mean, they're going to that's all factored into the equation when making the decision whether to widen a road, and you calculate ROI, return on investment. How much extra population, how much extra traffic is this bringing to this area? How much will this benefit our area in terms of additional tax revenue? And so, you factor into that the cost of contracting with the company to widen the road and all the materials and labor associated with that. This would just be an additional cost, which would be.
So you want them to give charge their constituents more taxes to pay for the road widening? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean they don't have to widen the road at all. They don't feel
Well,
that
if
is
it will
necessary.
benefit the neighborhood from having more accidents, because that's what constituent came to me about roads, because it was causing accidents because of how the roads were made. So if it would benefit the neighborhood by preventing more accidents from happening, then they would need to widen the road or add whatever to that area. So you want them to charge the constituents more taxes to pay for that instead of the utility companies who come here all the time asking for rate increases anyway, taking care of it.
I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't say it in a clear way. Like the utility companies, they already get reimbursed. So there's already a mechanism to where they do get reimbursed when they have to move lines.
So we're not worried about the utility companies. We worry about somebody else.
So yeah, because they're already reimbursed. It's just the telecommunication companies that aren't. So it's kind of an uneven playing field. This would just create an even playing field.
I'll yield to McCreary.
Any other questions? See none. First person to testify in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Thanks very much. For the record, Noel Torpy for MCTA. First, I'd like to thank the Senator, did an excellent job explaining this. I just want to talk a little bit about, for our companies, the Charters and the Comcasts of the world. We pay a right-of-way fee right now, right, where we're talking about these areas. We pay a right-of-way fee. And a couple of years ago, back in 2021, it was at 5%. That was direct. It went directly to the customer. If you have a Comcast bill, you can see it on your bill. It's currently at 4%, and it will eventually go to 2.5%. That deal was cut with Wayfair. The city's got Wayfair. We got the reduction of the right-of-way fee. We froze it for the first 3 years, and then it goes down 0.5% every year. It's currently at 4%. It will ultimately go to 2.5%. The chairman, Senator Williams, Senator Caleb Rowden, and Senator Rizzo all helped with that deal in the Senate. Greatly appreciate that. And so with the right-of-way fees, and then, of course, last year, this body passed a bill that streaming devices will not be taxed. So the Netflix of the world get no tax. We were neutral on that bill, just to kind of give you a history of the right-of-way fee. So currently, we're paying 4% in the right. Actually, our customers are paying 4%, and it's passed on to them. And so all this does, as the good senator said, the IOUs, the Amerins, the Evergys of the world, they're made whole at the PSC. We're not governed by the PSC. They go to the PSC, and they're made whole when they have to move. Right now, if we're told to move, even though we're in the ground, we take the cost on. So a road project of $1 million, we would, if this bill were to pass, would pass along the costs. On average, it would be about $10,000 to $20,000. Typically on the lower end, more, around $10,000. That 1 or 2% that cost for us to move it and put it back in. And so, with that, we would love for you to support this bill. We think it's the right thing to do to get broadband out to rural Missouri quicker, and being the fact that we're paying that road right-of-way fee and then being told to move we just have to budget for it right now. It's a scary time. We could be in the ground for 2 years, and then all of a sudden a city or a county or MoDOT says, hey, move your stuff. Oh, by the way, at your cost. We just don't think that's right. They think if you're telling us when and where to move, you should take that cost on. With that, Senator, I'd be happy to take on any questions.
Thank you. So this applies to MoDOT as well as to the counties?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody from the industry going to testify today? From the industry? I mean, I know you represent
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
Okay. Because I'm curious, which is cheaper to move, aerial or buried?
On average, underground is more expensive, but if it's rock,
But if you're moving fiber from the right-of-way presently, and I guess they're expanding, they're moving the right-of-way, taking off, and it's going to be the side of the road, everybody that's got something buried doesn't bury it. Somebody puts in a series of conduits, right? 24, 36, whatever. And then you come back behind them. I suppose that's why I'm curious. Does everybody do their own thing, or do you have the big guys put in the conduit, and then you guys get a conduit assigned to you, or how's that work?
Well, typically with internet, we're kind of, the Netflix are kind of hopping on our backs.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, to get something down a road, if it's buried, does everybody bury their own, or does somebody put in a bigger conduit that's got 24, 36 pipes running through it, and then you don't have that much cost because the conduit's already there, I guess is what I'm asking.
I'm not 100% sure, but someone behind me might be able to
Okay,
answer
I'm
that,
just-
but I will certainly get you the answer.
Right.
You can share it with the committee.
Just like aerial stuff, the power lights or the AT&Ts will move the poles, and you guys then will move your attachments.
Yeah, if
to
we're the
new
last
tower.
one on the pole,
Right.
right, and
And
the
so-
engineer says, hey, replace the
Right.
pole, we have to replace the
And
pole.
the expense is moving the pole, not
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
transferring utilities is not that big
Yeah.
once you got the poles.
That's a great
down.
point.
Okay, anyway,
Yeah.
thank you. Any other questions? Senator Mosley.
Can you explain the customer paying 4% more? Because I really didn't catch that part.
Yeah, so right now, the right-of-way fee On someone's internet bill, you can see it on the bill. They pay a 4% tax on the right-of-way fee.
What does that cover?
That covers, well, so I can speak to I live in Independence, Missouri, and so they can use it kind of for whatever they want, but typically it was designed to take care of the right-of-way, the grass and the right-of-way fee, but there's some leeway there. They can use it for lots of other things the city deems necessary.
Okay. So the 4% fee goes to
The city.
the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Senator, is that called a franchise fee on their bill? Is that 4%, is that a franchise fee? Is that what they call that, a franchise tax?
It's on the bill.
Okay, that's what it's classified as?
I mean, at least on my Comcast bill, it's
Okay,
on there. I
thank
know
you.
for sure because
Okay.
I looked at it.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Next in favor,
Thank you.
please come forward.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Mike Sutherland, Vice President of the Missouri Rural Electric Association, Cooperative Association, and we have about nearly half of our rural electric cooperatives do provide broadband in rural areas, and we are supportive of the legislation. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
How do co-ops handle this today? If you've got to move your facilities, your electric lines?
I think that they take on the cost of.
So they just absorb it because
Yeah.
the same people are going to pay that's paying?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
okay, I see that. All right, thank you. Question? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. Next in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Tracy King here representing AT&T. We'd like to go on record in support of the bill. I think we have a unique opportunity with the BEAD money that's coming in to get broadband out to rural areas and parts of the state that would not normally get it. And so we ask for your support of the bill because we probably would not build out to some of these locations but for the BEAD and the subsidy. So they're high-cost areas, and so that's what it's for. And then to take on, that and then to have to relocate, at some point after that is an expense. And so we ask for your support of the bill.
But this bill really doesn't have anything to do with building out broadband. This is just deferring costs on existing lines that have to be moved for road improvements primarily, right?
Well, it doesn't specifically say broadband, but broadband will be a part.
Right. But the build-out is separate from this? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Anybody else in favor, please come forward.
Bill Gamble, registered lobbyist, appearing on behalf of the Missouri Broadband Providers Association. We are in the rural areas with 35 of our companies in the most high-cost, low population density areas of the state. Many of our members are cooperatives, telephone cooperatives, broadband cooperatives, so the burden of this is paid for by our members, consumers.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have questions for Bill? No. Seeing none, thank you. And everybody that's testified, please make sure you leave a paper, a witness form.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jared Hankinson, representing the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, here to speak in support of Senate Bill 489. Keep it short. Missouri's non-rate regulated utilities should not be subject to unanticipated, unplanned costs for simply maintaining their operations because of a right-of-way project that they have no say in initiating or not. If government decides to do something, private business should not be forced to cover the cost of a government decision. So I'll leave it at that and happy to take any questions.
How many states do this?
Sorry?
How many states have this ability to recapture their costs?
I do not have that answer at hand, but I'm sure someone in the room would be able to give that to you. Maybe
Okay,
even the bill
thank you.
sponsor here.
Senator?
I have a question. So, you all want to take the burden off the counties, and you're doing this for the rural areas. And are the rural areas counties able to afford moving you all's infrastructures or whatever y'all trying to get moved? Are they able to afford this, since you all are claiming to be in support of rural areas who are already financially suffering? Are they going to be able to afford to move you all's companies' infrastructure when they need to build roads or expand roads and things like that? How is that going to negatively affect the rural area?
It's a great question, Senator. I'm not familiar with. Yeah.
If I may, so if they're looking at the cost of expanding a road, if they can afford it, we're only talking about potentially a 1% increase. So if they're whether they're able to afford it or not in their budget, like 1 to 2% isn't really going to be a huge difference maker as far as if they can afford it or not afford it. Because if they can put up the other 98, 99%, just 1 to 2 more percent, that's not really adding that much of an additional burden. It wouldn't be enough to deter them from pursuing the project, I imagine.
The previous person said about $10,000. So $10,000 to some people is a whole lot of money. May not be to maybe where you live, but probably in the rural area, $10,000 would probably be a whole lot of money to them.
To people, yeah, but to the governments, I mean, if
You don't think
if
that'll be
$10,000
tied
is
to-
1%, then the total project, what are we looking at? It's a little too early for me to be sharp with the math, but what is it? Of $1 million? So yeah, so if they're $1 million project, they can afford $1 million. An additional 10,000 in comparison. I get your point, but in comparison, 10,000 on a $1 million project, that's just a drop in the bucket.
I guess. So is there anyone here representing the rural counties that you know of?
I'm with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, not
Okay, yeah.
representing rural counties, sorry.
I'm sure you don't know. I was just asking him since he was putting his
Oh,
2
man.
cents in.
I have actually a very diverse district that involves several rural areas as well as a little bit of St. Louis County.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody else in favor?
Good morning. Matthew Smith with Associated Industries of Missouri. I want to go on record of support of this bill. It only makes sense that if a governing body forces broadband companies to move their infrastructure, that governing body should have to pay for it, not telecommunication companies. As the senator said, broadband is essential as more activities become remote, and we support making the streamlining of high-speed internet more efficient. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
I didn't hear where you said you were from.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I didn't hear who you said you were representing.
Associated Industries of Missouri.
Associate Industry of Missouri.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just curious, does the rural area already have broadband?
I think most rural areas currently have broadband, yes. Some do.
Because I thought this was the purpose of the bill, was to get broadband to the rural area. Okay.
You done? Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else in favor, please come forward.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Derek Leffert representing Gateway Fiber. We have a lot of infrastructure along the I-70 corridor in the St. Charles, Warren County areas. We also have some infrastructure in Senator Brown's Senate district as well. Just a quick analysis on that. There's a possibility with the road widening project that we could potentially see some very significant costs associated with our moves I will tell you that for every $100,000 that would cost us, we could probably put 7,000 feet of fiber in the ground for that. So that's kind of give you a ballpark reference of that as to, we can, instead of spending that money on relocation, we could also, put that back into actually deploying that broadband in the areas that we're taking it to. To your question earlier, you asked if every company was putting in their own conduit, and that's typically the case. We don't put in conduit for anybody else, and most other providers put in their own conduit in the right-of-ways, and that's pretty much all I've got.
So you put in, it used to come in packs of 16 or 24 or whatever, different individual pipes, and you just kind of build it as you go down, and so then you own that entire thing?
We do own the conduit and the fiber that goes in. So the conduit goes in, and then we go back and we blow fiber through it, and we own that. Now there is some cases where we maybe lease a strand of dark fiber to another provider, but by and large.
But you place the fiber and then just lease it.
Correct.
To them. Okay.
Correct. And so there's significant costs associated with relocating, and this is actually becoming more commonplace now with a lot of roundabouts going in. That just escalates the cost that much further because you got to go further around it.
Is mostly it's conduit, it's not direct buried?
Correct, yeah. The overwhelming amount of fiber that's going in the ground right now is in conduit.
Okay, and so going across, do you have the fiber going completely across the state, or just those sections you talked about?
Right now, we are just primarily in we're in Lincoln County, St. Charles County, Warren County. That's in Franklin County. That's the areas that we're in right now. But we do have other states. There was a question earlier about other states. We are in other states, placing fiber in other states, both aerially and underground. And this is a very common policy position right now, where other states are pursuing this passage of this legislation as well.
So when, like the Missouri, going across I-70, all those fibers, so it's not just placing it. At some point, you've got to switch over to the new system, to the new fiber path, and you got to coordinate that with your NOC. You got to do all the stuff that you do to move that stuff, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So is all those costs part of this too, then, that engineering service orders and things to get that stuff moved?
Yeah, it's very expensive. It's not just the actual construction.
Right.
It's all of the network operations piece of it and everything else as well.
How do you keep track of what's in the fiber even?
I'm sorry.
How do you know what's in that fiber?
How do we know?
I mean, if
what's
it's
in
dark
there?
fiber, if you've just leased fiber out, who knows? I mean, you could have gigabit systems on there. And
Yeah, I mean, if there's dark fiber in there, that's the obligation of that utility or whoever to make sure that their customers know that. But for us, it would just be notification that there'd be a cutover on a specific time frame.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody else in favor? Okay, let's start with the people opposed to this bill. Please come forward. Nobody opposed? Don't be bashful, Richard.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Richard Sheets. I'm the Executive Director of the Missouri Municipal League, and we'd like to go on record opposing Senate Bill 489. I think first of the discussion about the right-of-way. The right-of-way was created, taken mostly from adjoining property owners to provide access to property and provide avenues for vital services, water, sewer, electric. And as things have developed with cable television, the cable television industry wanted to use the right-of-way to provide their cable television services because it was less expensive to use the public right-of-way instead of acquiring the right-of-way from adjoining property owners. So it's a convenience. So as a convenience, these companies are using the public right-of-way. It's a financial benefit to them. And as previous testimony indicated, the cable companies provided a franchise fee. Well, with Wayfair, that's going down. And so the money the cable companies are providing cities for the use of the right-of-way and maintenance is going down. And in the same token, many of the cable providers are going to broadband, not being a cable company more. It's going to be part of streaming through broadband. And streaming and broadband pays nothing to the taxpayers for the use of the public right-of-way. Broadband pays no franchise fee to the public. And this is a public right-of-way. And we see this as shifting the cost of moving this, not to the city, but it's moving it to the taxpayer. That's who ultimately is paying for this, is the taxpayer. So the taxpayer, your constituents, are paying for moving this private facility that's a profit-making entity using a public asset. And also, many of these companies, they have customers. Not all taxpayers are customers of that utility or of that cable company or that cable industry. So it's shifting the cost to non-customers. And we talked about earlier about how electric or public service commission regulated utilities, electric, water, they pass this cost along or they get reimbursed. Well, how do they get reimbursed? They get reimbursed from rates. They go to the Public Service Commission and say, here's our cost of doing business. And part of that was moving our lines in X city because of a road construction. So they adjust the rates to account for that cost. Well, this will shift that from that cable company or that broadband from putting that in their rate structure and shift it to the taxpayer, the public. So it's just further use of tax dollars for a private purpose. We're using tax dollars, federal and state money, to expand broadband. I mean, that's been a big deal for a long time, and we finally had some influx of federal money that allowed the state to help broadband companies to expand into rural areas and to underserved areas or urban areas. So we're using tax dollars to expand, and then when we upgrade our street facilities, which makes it easier for development to happen and provide more customers to these broadband companies, we're also paying them for moving their facility when they're realizing gain from using the right of way and the expansion of that public asset. So I think this is really just a shift of this cost to the taxpayer, and we believe that's not good public policy. This is something we all use, and they should be a part of making this right-of-way a more accessible and a good product, a good right-of-way. I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Thank you. The fact that we don't tax broadband as far as franchise fees, that's a federal law, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we didn't do that.
No, you didn't do it. It's federal law, so you can't change that. It's going to be Congress.
And I know my city, Lee Summit, with Wayfarer, I think they've more than made up that 2.5% cut that's eventually going to happen. I think they've been flooded with money since internet sales tax has occurred. So I think that was a fair trade for most cities. If they can pass their use tax, they'll be more than compensated for that.
Well, our take on Wayfarer wasn't really a trade-off, really, because Wayfarer was really replacing lost tax dollars that were shifting to the internet and being. So we don't see that as a gain. It's just replacing lost revenue from municipalities. But to that extent, the city has to vote in, and the county and cities have to vote in a use tax. And not all municipalities have done that. I think we have probably, this is not an exact number, we probably have, probably 270 to 300 cities that might have passed the use tax. I don't think it's 300 yet, but so a number of cities haven't passed a use tax, right. So they're not realizing that.
No, they're not. Blue Springs is one of my cities, and that's something they're going to have to work on and try to get done. Right. Eventually, if their citizens want to do that. But yeah, I just say it's in my cities, the cities I'm aware of, the Wayfarer has been a pretty good deal for them. Not that one equals the other, but I'm just saying that that's kind of in my mind when we allow that to occur. We said, okay, well, let's cut the franchise because it's all going to the city's GR for the most part. So
right, and our cost the cost of everything's going up. The cost of maintaining and expanding our rights of way, our roads and streets are more expensive, and it's good public policy to keep those maintained. I mean, for a number of reasons, and it helps business, and business helps getting customers. I think this is just a shift to the taxpayers.
Do you agree with the cost? It'd be 1 or 2% of the total project cost?
I really couldn't honestly speak to that. We can do some research, but I couldn't honestly tell you exactly the cost. I mean, I think it probably varies. It probably depends on the type of project, actually. If the project is just maybe expanding or putting curbs and gutters in or doing something like that, would be less. But if they're expanding into a new area that needs to be, that's been newly developed, well, that cost is going to be greater, of course. But
Well, if you're expanding, putting roads into a new area,
Yeah.
that's not compensated. This bill's not asking that to be compensated. That's on the utilities and all to put in their services. This is saying if they're widening a road and they have to move the utilities.
But what happens in a lot of areas when you expand into an area, you may have a two-lane blacktop. You
Right.
Lease Summit, expand
Road's a good
there. There's a
example.
two-lane blacktop, and it's the capacity is not capable, and they have to upgrade it. So it is really expansion and allowing for new growth of the community, and that's the public safety aspects of our roads have to be considered.
And by the way, I don't think the Kansas City portion of Lee Summit Road is still done. It's been years.
Yeah.
Lee Summit, Independence are done, Kansas City's not. Anyway, that's beside the point. Any questions for this witness? Senator Mosley.
I didn't hear where you said you was from.
Pardon?
I didn't hear who you said you were representing.
I'm with the Missouri Municipal League. We have 650 cities that are our members.
I was just texting you all's name from the
Okay.
mayor in my district. Okay. All right.
Are you done? Okay. Anybody else have questions? Seeing none. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next person in opposition, please come forward. Oh, Jeremy, I'm so disappointed. Anybody want to testify? Okay. I thought I saw more hands go up than that earlier.
Thank you. Chairman and committee members, my name is Pat Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of the Municipal League of Metro St. Louis. I don't want to repeat everything that Richard said, or Richard said a lot of things I was going to say, but I did want to elaborate on one. The public has already paid for a lot of this infrastructure that the cable companies are using through the Broadband and Equity Access and Development Program. The state of Missouri and the public has already invested $1.7 billion in putting that infrastructure in. These companies now are using that to make a profit. They are unregulated, unlike the utilities that are regulated, and pass those when they need to go in and make those changes, they pass that on through a rate increase to the public. Again, these are profit-making companies. They list these assets on their portfolios or these right-of-ways on their portfolios as an asset. And they claim that, and they're able to access loans and those kinds of things through that asset that they own. So it's a lot different than the other utilities. But this is just going to be passed back on to the taxpayers who, like I started out by saying, they've already made this investment to put that infrastructure in. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Next in opposition, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Eric Landwehr. I am the Public Works Director for Cole County here in Jefferson City, and I'm also a member of the American Public Works Association, the Missouri chapter here in the state, and also the Missouri Association of County and City Transportation Officials. So I have a lot of peers and colleagues around the state that are in the same position as I am that can be impacted by this bill. So again, I'm representing Cole County, and I'm here to testify against the ramifications of this becoming law could affect our ability to maintain and improve our roadways. We have 475 miles of roadway in Cole County, 326 miles are paved. We have a program to upgrade gravel roads to paved regularly. We've been doing that since 1987. Funding for most of our projects comes from a half-cent sales tax imposed in 1987 on the county and voted since then by the county citizens. This bill could impact ultimately the county taxpayer if we're forced to have to pay for these relocations. Our projects typically are funded by that sales tax. They're impacted by many different things. Inflation has hurt us tremendously over the past few years. We also have a lot of federal regulatory agencies that can cause project delays and added expenses. We don't need another regulation like this bill that's just going to add to our cost to do projects. We do understand the importance of the utilities being in a right-of-way. We work with them regularly. We grant no-cost permits to them. I've heard talk about a 4% fee. We do not get that at the county. So any cost added to us to do a project is just going to add to the overall cost and impact us tremendously. We do work with the utilities routinely. I've been with the county for 20 years. Prior to that, I was with MoDOT. I have a lot of experience working directly with these projects. Been doing it day in and day out over those past 20 years, especially for the county. And utilities are everywhere, especially underground. Sometimes we know where they are, sometimes we don't. They've been in there many years, sometimes new. We always work with the utility company when they're putting in a new service to make sure that we're planning ahead and knowing where we're going to have projects that could be impacted. Sometimes on especially the gravel roads, the utilities underground are maybe just below a ditch line. And when motor graders have been pulling the ditch, blading the road, they've actually gotten into them. So they can be everywhere. We don't know exactly where they're at. With Cole County being a first-class county, we do have a fairly large tax base, which is definitely good for us. It allows us to do what we do, and it's expected by our citizens. The impacts of this law would affect us if it's passed, but we would try to get by. Most counties around the state are not near as fortunate. Third-class counties, as shown on this map by Missouri Association of Counties, are mostly rural and don't really have any funding to just maintain their roadways, let alone improve them. They can get federal funding for bridge replacements, and in doing those projects, they sometimes will have to match upwards of 20%. And in the case of a bridge, typically there's a utility attached to that, and if they have to pay for that relocation, it could mean the difference of not being able to do the project. So, in closing, I just want to reiterate the fact that this could have big impacts on us. Again, we're a larger county. We can absorb it if we actually have to. It's really going to tremendously hurt the rural counties that don't have the funding, and that's primarily the rural parts of the state. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So maybe we should make it only apply to the bigger, more prosperous counties? I mean, maybe.
Well, with us being a larger county, we're doing a lot more projects,
Yeah.
and so the impacts, I mean,
Right.
it's going to hit us percentage-wise a lot more. We just could, absorb it, but it's just going to affect the taxpayers.
You
The
made an
rural
interesting
counties
point. The
first.
franchise tax is collected by cities, right? So
Believe
counties
so.
don't collect that.
We do not.
So if you're, I shouldn't ask you this, but if you're an unincorporated area, you don't pay a franchise fee on your cable, I guess?
In unincorporated, I'm not aware, but I don't believe so.
Probably not. I had never
No,
thought
we,
about
we,
that.
we don't impose a franchise fee on
Okay.
any of these utilities.
Thank you. Any questions?
Okay.
Seeing none.
Thank you.
Hang on a
I
minute.
got a question.
You say
Sorry.
you do?
Okay.
So, I'm just curious, this question, like if you had to repair a road, do they still have to move their facilities when you preparing a road?
Typically, what would happen if there's utility damage during a repair, if it's marked and located and we hit it, we have to pay that relocation cost. Sometimes it's not, or sometimes it's too low, it's below or it's more shallow than what is standard, and the utility would pay for that. Like, in the case of the ditch being pulled by the motor grader.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Anybody
thank
else opposed to the bill, please come forward. Any?
I'll be quick, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. John Hensley, lobbyist for the City of Lee Summit. Just wanted to go on record in opposition to the bill.
Excellent testimony.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else in opposition, please come forward. Okay.
Same vote. Hi. Susan Henderson Moore, representing the City of Columbia. Just want to go on record in opposition.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Anybody else opposition? Anybody for information purposes?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Senators. My name's Eric Schrader. I'm the Deputy Director and Chief Engineer at MoDOT. A couple of things to point out here this morning. So when utilities use our 34,000 miles of right-of-way, there is no fee collected by the state. There's no permit fee. There's no franchise fee. They're all located there free of charge. Now, the state buys and maintains that property and allows utilities to use it. This is all spelled out in the Code of State Regulations, 7 CSR 10-3. You can find all the regulations for locating there and relocation. When utilities are on private right-of-way, that's a property right, and we pay for that. So when a utility is on their own right-of-way or own easement, in those cases, we do pay for the reimbursement for the movement of those. When they're located on the state system, since they're located there for free, they bear that cost of relocating when we need them to relocate. I'd be glad to have any questions you might have.
On I-70, where is the right-of-way? Is it between the lanes, or?
No, the interstates are a special case set out by federal law. The utility corridor is on the outside of the outer roads, and if there's no outer road, there is no utility corridor on I-70.
Okay, thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody else for information purposes?
But can you give me that information to my office that you just provided?
Surely can.
Thank you. Anybody else for information purposes? Seeing none, Senator Brown, thank you for presenting your bill. And do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I'll just state that these companies aren't monopolies like utility companies that can essentially raise rates any time. There's competition there, and that restricts their ability to do that. So just like to point that out and thank the committee once again for the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much. That will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 489. Meeting is adjourned.